Hi guys, the Middle Maniac here, and welcome to another episode of Album Wars. In this episode, I'm going to be pitting up these two albums against each other. Scream Gore by Death, and Death Revenge by Exhumed. Two absolute death metal masterpieces. But this is Album Wars, so only one could win. With that, gotta take the slipcase off of that, and let's begin. Alright. So, first off, Infernal Death versus Introduction Death Revenge Overture. Now, Infernal Death, great song, but it's not a really fitting album opener. The Death Revenge Overture, on the other hand, even though it's not a full-fledged song, it's sort of just an instrumental / opening sort of thing. It's still a more fitting album opener than Infernal Death. So Death Revenge gets the first point. Alright. Next up. Zombie Ritual versus Defenders of the Grave. Both songs are great, but Zombie Ritual is a legendary song that just has way more, just something about it that stands the test of time, that it's amazing, because that song is on an album from 1987, and it's just one of those songs that no matter how old it gets, no matter how many new albums come out, it's a song on an album that stands the test of time. And even though Defenders of the Grave is an amazing masterpiece in its own right, it still quite can't stand up to Zombie Ritual. So Scream Bloody Gore gets its first point. Alright. Next up. Denial of Life versus Lifeless. Ooh. This one's a hard one. I'm gonna have to go with Denial of Life on this one. Just ever so slightly better song. Alright. Next. Sacrificial versus Dead End. Sacrificial is an amazing song, but Dead End just has a little bit more of an edge because of that riff that leads into an amazing guitar solo. Definitely a slightly more, not smoother, but a slightly more, well put together song in terms of the transition from, riff to solo. But yeah, so Death Revenge gets this point. Alright. Mutilation versus Night Work. Both great songs, but again, I have to give the edge to Death Revenge, and this time I have to give the more of the edge to the song Night Work. Just an ever so slightly better song. Alright, next up, Regurgitated Guts, one of my favorite songs from Scream Bloody Gore, versus Unspeakable. Oof, so hard to choose. I'm gonna have to go with Regurgitated Guts. Alright. Next up, Baptized in Blood, another favorite of mine, versus Interlude, Gravemakers of Edinburgh. Interlude's great, but I'm gonna have to go with the full-fledged song on this one. So, yep. Baptized in Blood wins this part, and Scream Bloody Gore gets another point. Alright. Torn to Pieces versus The Harrowing. Torn to Pieces is awesome, but The Harrowing is even better. Alright. Quick break for a second. Alright. What's next? Evil Dead, my favorite death metal song of all time, versus A Funeral Party. Funeral Party is one of the best songs on Death Revenge, but nothing, and I mean nothing, ever can stand against the song Evil Dead. It's just that good of a song, and it's just so awesome. So, Scream Bloody Gore gets another point. Alright. The title track, Scream Bloody Gore, versus the amazing instrumental, The Anatomy Act of 1832. Title track is awesome, but the instrumental, Anatomy Act of 1832, is way, way, way better in my opinion. So, Death Revenge gets another point. Alright, now, Beyond the Unholy Grave versus Incarnated Hands. Incarnated Hands is a good song, but Beyond the Unholy Grave is an absolute masterpiece of a song. So, Scream Bloody Gore gets another point. Alright, last song on each album. Land of No Return versus the title track Death Revenge. Whew. I'm gonna have to give it to Death Revenge. And it looks like it's a tie. Both Scream Bloody Gore and Death Revenge have 6 points. As you can see there. So, looks like both win this episode of Album Wars. There hasn't really been a lot of ties on these things. Usually one wins over the other, but on a rare case like this, there has been a few ties. Alright, so that's it for this episode of Album Wars. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.